do you believe Alberta has legitimate grievances with Ottawa, and where do you draw the line between advocating for Alberta and supporting separatism?
Yes, Alberta does have legitimate grievances. The line I draw is that we can solve those grievances within a united Canada. Albertans are not asking for anything that would be to the detriment of the rest of the country. They're asking for things that would be good for all of Canada, and that's what we should do.
Carbon tax is gone. So how do you react to that?
Mark Carney, he can say whatever he wants. He loves carbon taxes. He wrote about it in his book. He thought Trudeau's carbon tax was not high enough and big enough. So Carney and the Liberals will always find a way to impose a carbon tax and make your life more expensive.
And Prime Minister Carney says his government's economic plan is settling in, and that Canadians should expect uneven economic data as immigration and spending reductions take effect.
Our GDP is smaller today than it was a year ago when Mr. Carney took office. There is no other G7 country for which that is the case. And you can't blame the United States for that, because Mexico is living next to the United States in CUSMA, and Mexico's not in a recession. So there's something that Mr. Carney is doing.
And in Canada, public safety has deteriorated and social tensions have increased. So do you believe Canada is becoming less safe, and what should be done differently?
This is the problem. We need to repeal all the liberal soft on crime laws, bring jail, not bail, 3 strikes, you're out. Secure our borders. No more Bishnoi gangsters should be allowed in. There should be a full criminal background check on anyone who comes to Canada, who tries to come to Canada. They should not be allowed in if they've committed a crime in the country of origin. These are all things Conservatives would do to make Canada safe at home again.
And what did you have to say on the immigration policies of the government?
I have nothing against the individual people, the international students and temporary workers. Most of them are just really good, decent people who want to start at life. We also need to keep criminals out of our country, get rid of the temporary foreign worker program, which just drives down Canadian wages, because Canadian jobs should go to Canadians first.
ਅੱਜ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਆਫ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਲੀਡਰ, ਅਫੀਸ਼ੀਅਲ ਆਪੋਜੀਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਲੀਡਰ, ਤੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਹੀ ਅਲਬਰਟਾ ਤੋਂ ਬੈਟਲ ਰਿਵਰ ਕ੍ਰੌਫੋਰਡ ਤੋਂ ਮੈਂਬਰ ਪਾਰਲੀਮੈਂਟ ਆਨਰੇਬਲ ਪੀਅਰ ਪੋਲੀਐਵ ਸਾਡੇ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਏ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ, ਕੈਲਗਰੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨੇ। ਲਾਸਟ ਵੀਕਐਂਡ 'ਤੇ ਵੀ ਇੱਕ ਸਾਡੇ ਪਬਲਿਕ ਗੈਦਰਿੰਗ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ, ਤੇ ਉਸ ਗੈਦਰਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਪੇਸ਼ ਕੀਤੇ, ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਉਹ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਟੂਡੀਓ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਨੇ। ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਪੀਅਰ, ਵੈਰੀ ਗੁੱਡ ਮਾਰਨਿੰਗ ਐਂਡ ਵੈਲਕਮ ਸਰ।
Good morning to you.
Thank you very much for joining us.
It's great to be here in the splendid Calgary spring morning in my hometown.
Yes, I was just about to say that.
Yes,
yes. Your town.
I grew up in Shaughnessy, way down in the south end.
Shaughnessy.
Yeah, it was on the edge of the universe when I was a kid. There was nothing beyond Shaughnessy. But now, of course, there's many neighborhoods that have grown up.
That's true. So recent discussions around Alberta sovereignty and separation have gained attention. And do you believe Alberta has legitimate grievances with Ottawa, and where do you draw the line between advocating for Alberta and supporting separatism?
So there's 2 questions there. One, yes, Alberta does have legitimate grievances, and the line I draw is that we can solve those grievances within a united Canada, that we can make for a stronger Alberta within a united Canada if we make changes that would not only be good for Albertans, but for all of Canada. If you listen carefully to people who say they want to leave the country right now, they don't dislike Canada or Canadians. They dislike the decisions of the federal Liberal government, the anti-energy and resource laws like C-69 and 48, which effectively ban pipelines, slow the approval of major mines, and make it illegal to ship oil off the northwest coast of British Columbia, effectively landlocking our product. Get rid of all of that. All of a sudden, you would have far more oil production, which would boost our dollar and our purchasing power, make us less dependent on the United States, and unify the country. And then you've got the affordability crisis. Many of young Albertans are losing hope because they can't afford their lives. And anybody who does not understand that affordability is one of the major drivers of this division, both in Alberta and Quebec, has not talked to young people because they can't afford their lives. They're not, their parents could buy homes when they were 22 years old, and now our kids can't afford to buy until they're in their late 30s, and they don't see a future. So we need to cut the cost of government, stop printing money, get rid of taxes on gas, get rid of all taxes on home building, and unlock affordable and reliable source of food and homes so that our people have opportunities. Now, if you did that for Albertans, there would be less support for separation, but the rest of the country would be better off as well. The irony is the Albertans are not asking for anything that would be to the detriment of the rest of the country. They're asking for things that would be good for all of Canada, and that's what we should do.
And on Friday last week, at the leaders' dinner, Premier Danielle Smith addressed the congregation there. So she quoted you as well. And one sentence I want to quote is, carbon tax is gone. 2035 electric vehicle mandate is gone. And also Stephen Guilbeault is gone. So how do you react to that?
Well, the carbon tax is not gone. There's now two carbon taxes that Mr. Carney is imposing. One is called the Clean Fuel Standard, which is adding 7 cents a litre at the pumps, and that will rise to 17 cents a litre by 2030. And it is also a broader tax. It applies on farm fuels and fishing vessels that didn't pay the previous tax. Then there's the industrial carbon tax, which Mr. Carney brags he's increasing 6 times higher than the one Trudeau left behind. So that is going to do major damage. If you want to get rid of carbon taxes, you have to vote for a Conservative government. Mark Carney, he can say whatever he wants. He loves carbon taxes. He wrote about it in his book. He thought Trudeau's carbon tax was not high enough and big enough. So Carney and the Liberals will always find a way to impose a carbon tax and make your life more expensive. If you want low-cost energy, you have to elect Conservatives. And
Pierre, if frustration in Alberta continues to grow,
yes,
what specific federal actions would help keep the province fully engaged in Confederation?
Look, I think Dalwinder Gill, who's here with me today in the studio, would agree that we can relieve these frustrations. We know what the people are asking for. They want us to unblock our energy sector. They want their communities to be safe again by locking up the criminals. The hunters, farmers, and sports shooters want to be able to keep their lawfully acquired firearms. They want lower taxes. They want less of their money to go to Ottawa and more of it to stay in Alberta. And I plan to do those things. I would be doing those things even if there were no separatist movement in Alberta, because they're good for all of Canada. That's why I'm so optimistic. All these problems are fixable, and my job is to fix them.
And Prime Minister Carney says his government's economic plan is settling in, and that Canadians should expect uneven economic data as immigration and spending reductions take effect. So do you agree Canadians need to be patient, or do you believe the government's approach is making economic conditions worse?
I believe Canadians have been very patient with Mr. Carney and the Liberal government. Let's just look at his record. A year after he was elected on the promise that he was going to be an economic genius, he's given Canada the only recession in the G7, right? We're the only economy that has shrunk the last 2 quarters. In fact, our economy has shrunk 3 of the last 4 quarters. Our GDP is smaller today than it was a year ago when Mr. Carney took office. There is no other G7 country for which that is the case. And you can't blame the United States for that, because Mexico is living next to the United States in CUSMA, and Mexico's not in a recession. So there's something that Mr. Carney is doing that is causing this Liberal recession. And it includes massive spending increases that have doubled our deficit, continuation of Justin Trudeau's anti-development laws, C-69 and 48, the industrial carbon tax, which we pay but no other countries pay. So all our steel, aluminum, fertilizer, cement, oil and gas industries are at a huge disadvantage. These are anti-growth, inflationary policies imposed by Mark Carney. He is the problem, and he needs to urgently reverse the Liberal policies that have given us the only recession in the G7.
Before being the leader of the party, you were finance critic and you performed very, very well.
Thank you.
Amazing performance was there as such. And now we are heading toward recession, as you just mentioned. So there are two terms now being used, soft landing, technical recession. So how do you elaborate those 2 points?
Well, you've sparked some memories, because I remember when I was the shadow finance minister, I said we were facing an inflation crisis. And they said it will be, what was it? Transitory inflation. Remember, They said it'll be transitory. That was the fancy banker word for it. And now they say the recession is a technical recession. So if you're one of those people at a grocery store who's having to hand back items because you can't afford them, or if you're missing your mortgage payment, or if you're a 35-year-old couple who can't afford to move out of your tiny apartment and buy a house to have kids, Mark Carney will say, don't worry, it's only technical. Just like when the cost of living crisis hit, he said, don't worry, it's only transitory. All these fancy words are just a way to camouflage the reality, and that is that under Mark Carney's Liberals, you're paying more for less, and that's why we need a real economic change.
And Pierre, one complaint we hear regularly and repeatedly from our listeners is that Canada seems willing to spend billions helping other countries, while many Canadians are struggling here on this ground. So what do you have to say on this?
We have to stop sending our money abroad. I want to cut back massively on foreign aid and put the money to work here in Canada. Drive around downtown Calgary. You have a homelessness crisis. We have our own homeless people on the street who can't afford a place to live. We have mothers who can't afford groceries for their kids. We have 2.2 million people lined up at food banks. Today, we learned that in Toronto, 10% of mortgage renewals will not go through. So 10% of people who are going to try to renew their mortgage in Toronto are going to be told by the bank, sorry, you have to lose your house. And yet we're spending billions of dollars on foreign organizations and dictatorships, giving aid to communist China, communist Cuba, to United Nations bureaucracies. I want to slash all of that garbage and bring the money back for our taxpayers and take care of our people.
And in Canada, public safety has deteriorated and social tensions have increased. So do you believe Canada is becoming less safe, and what should be done differently?
Well, I think Dalwinder would agree with me that the law-abiding people in his constituency here in Calgary feel more endangered. The extortion crisis has resulted from Liberals allowing the Bishnoi gang into our country. Then they brought in Bill C-5, which allows extortionists to do house arrest. They get arrested and they get to do their sentence at home and leave their house anytime they want with no supervision. And then there's Liberal bail, which continues to allow repeat offenders on the street. This is the problem. We need to repeal all the Liberal soft on crime laws, bring jail, not bail, 3 strikes, you're out. Secure our borders. No more Bishnoi gangsters should be allowed in. There should be a full criminal background check on anyone who comes to Canada, who tries to come to Canada. They should not be allowed in if they've committed a crime in the country of origin. These are all things Conservatives would do to make Canada safe at home again.
And if Prime Minister Carney were listening to this interview right now, so what is the one decision you would tell him to take immediately?
On crime in particular?
In general.
Oh, my goodness. Where do you start? I would tell him that his job is to reverse everything the Liberal Party has done for the last 10 years on crime, on spending, on taxes. It's all been a disaster. And right now, he's more or less continuing. There's been lots of great announcements, creating the illusion of change. But the reality is nothing has changed. As you can see when you go to your grocery store, when you look at your paycheck and your mortgage payment, everything is worse. So my message to Mr. Carney is reverse course, for real.
And Premier wants us to believe the MOU signed recently will work. So how optimistic are you on that issue?
Well, here's what I would say. Why do we even need to sign an MOU? What we should do is have the federal government approve pipelines, get rid of these anti-development laws and industrial carbon taxes automatically for all provinces and for all projects. We have 500 major projects that are waiting for federal approval right now. 500. It is impossible for any prime minister to go around the country signing one-off agreements for each of those projects. What we need to do is remove the anti-development laws and the bureaucracy so these projects can go ahead on their own without slow, grinding MOUs. And as for this particular agreement, wake me up when there's a steel pipe going in the ground. Wake me up when there are shovels moving dirt. Because right now, all we have is signing ceremonies and talk by the Liberal Prime Minister, and that doesn't create jobs.
Mm-hmm. And what do you have to say on the immigration policies of the government?
Well, it's been a complete disaster. We had the best immigration system anywhere on earth. The immigration wasn't even a controversial issue in Canada before this government came along. And then suddenly we increased the numbers by 300%. Almost overnight and without explanation, mostly to profit multinational corporations seeking to hire low-wage workers from very poor countries whom they abused and driving down the wages and jobs of Canadians. I have nothing against the individual people, the international students and temporary foreign. Most of them are just really good, decent people who want to start at life. But they've been lied to when the government brought in numbers that we could not absorb into housing, healthcare, and jobs. And so our approach is we have to cap immigration below levels of home building, healthcare, and job creation so that we always have incomes and care and homes for the people who come here. We also need to keep criminals out of our country, get rid of the temporary foreign worker program, which just drives down Canadian wages, because Canadian jobs should go to Canadians first.
And Pierre, what would you like to say in closing?
Well, despite all of our grievances, as Albertans, I think we have a very beautiful future within Canada, and we should maintain our optimism. We've been through hard times before. I remember growing up as a kid during the National Energy Program. We lost everything, but we fought our way back and we turned things around. In the preceding 25 years, Alberta became basically the richest place in the world. So we can do that again. We need to unlock our potential, unblock our resources, give a Blue Seal program for immigrant professionals to get jobs as doctors and nurses and in our hospital system, and restore the promise that brought Dalwinder's family here. The Gill family came here with the promise that if they worked hard, they'd be able to have homes and food and a great life. My family came for the same reason. So let's restore the promise of Canada and bring a brighter future. What I say is a stronger Alberta within a united Canada.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
For joining us. Thank you.
Great to be with you.
Thank you.